Well, startups initially, the biggest mistake I see them make is taking money out of the business too soon because everybody's very eager, obviously, to pay their bills and all that stuff. But the number one reason that startups fail in the first couple of years is because they're underfunded and they don't have the capital they need to grow. And I think it's important that whenever you go to startup, you have that seed money to live off of while you let the business kind of run and fund itself.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another amazing episode of Lead to Greatness, where we believe in helping others reach their greatest potential and together change the world. If this is your first time joining us, please consider subscribing and hit that notification bell and hit that like button. This will be greatly appreciated in helping getting out this content to great leaders and great individuals like yourself. Today on Lead to Greatness, we have Jessica Dennehy. Jessica is a business and legal strategist on a mission to help entrepreneurs re-innovate themselves, transform their ideas into successful companies, and scale their businesses. Through her company, Pivot and Slay, she coaches business owners on how to keep their companies efficient and evolving. Please help me welcome Jessica with Pivot and Slay. Cedric Francis, and you're listening to Lead to Greatness.
My passion is to empower entrepreneurs to pivot their mindsets and their businesses so that they can slay their goals and find freedom, alignment freedom, time freedom, all the freedom, because I love helping people have a business that works for them instead of them working for the business. Pivot's a word I've used a lot throughout my life because it really exemplifies what we need to do when life throws us a curveball, which is always going to happen, right? No matter where we're at, no matter how good we're doing, some kind of hurdle is going to come our way. And we need to purposefully move around the hurdle and be innovative so that we can still forge towards the goal and slay it. And Pivot got a bad rap, I thought, during the pandemic. Everyone was using it kind of erratically. And I really wanted to make a name that was strong. Like, we're not just going to pivot. We're going to pivot so we can keep getting our goals, so we can keep succeeding. And to me, that's just slaying it, right? Like, It makes it sound like it's more purposeful, like move around the hurdle and get to the slaying.
I love that. I want to back up a little bit into your career, into your life. You know, before the business got started, when you graduated college or whatever, I want to know, what was Jessica life back then and leading up to your entrepreneur journey?
The Jessica you see today is way more empowered and strong than the former versions of myself. And I think that's probably true for most of us, right? As we grow and learn and evolve. But when I was younger, my dream job was to be an attorney. I just really enjoyed understanding different people's perspectives and kind of arguing back and forth at different points, not in a confrontational way, but like more exploratory. Like, give me your perspective. I want to understand it. I want to see if it resonates with me. I was always really curious. And so being a lawyer felt very natural to me. And I spent my middle school and high school years, with that goal in mind, that I was going to go to college and go to law school. And I did. I almost didn't make it into law school, but I got there. I fought my way in and I got my dream job on Wall Street.
Wow.
And for 10 years, I was a lawyer on Wall Street. I was regulating the stock market, which was pretty exciting. But I at some point, I didn't feel like it was aligned with who I was anymore. I kind of felt caged and I wanted to break out and find my freedom. And that's what led me into entrepreneurship. Anyone that owns a business knows nothing goes smoothly most of the time, but we just we get better at dealing with it. So, a seasoned entrepreneur won't seem as shaken by these things, not because they stop happening, but just because you're now more equipped to deal with them. And that just comes with longevity and evolution. So, when I first opened my business, I opened a luxury barbershop, which is a very far cry from Wall Street. And that was just, filling a need in the marketplace. And my business partner came up with that idea. And I was like, great, I funded it. He worked in it. And we kind of did that until I left Wall Street. And the hurdles that really come from within when you're starting a business, because you have to show up in that business as a very empowered, knowledgeable human. Meanwhile, secretly, you don't know all the things and you're trying to figure it out. It's like building the parachute on the way down. And so I think the hardest part of taking that leap is all that risk of failure. I was 1 week away from having my first baby when I opened my first business, which is not an ideal time at all.
Wow.
And there was a lot of risk. I could have failed. I could have lost everything. I put a lot of money into it. And that fear is what holds most people back from taking the leap. Everybody's got those fears because we don't want to be ridiculed. So you got to have to let go of what other people think and just judge yourself, right? And this is the way I look at it. When you're building a business, the mistakes are the greatest part because that's where the lessons truly are. And the things that there's some things that someone can't teach you. You kind of have to experience it yourself to really understand it. And those are the most beautiful parts about business ownership. And, what I learned is without that pressure, pressure makes diamonds. And that is true for entrepreneurship too. Overcoming the risk is really just an exercise in mental agility. And what's the worst that can happen? If you're leaving a corporate job that you hate and you're bored at and doesn't light you up anymore, to try something that does light you up. The upside is you succeed and get to do something that lights you up forever. And if that doesn't work out, guess what? You can go find 50 jobs that won't light you up. They'll still be there. They'll still be there when you fail. If you fail, right? You just turn back and go back to that. So to me, that's what I told myself. And that's how I got over it. Is like, I could always go back to being a lawyer and hating my life, but I could also try to get out of this first and let's see if this is going to work.
So Jessica, so hold on real quick. So you mean to tell me that mistakes is not failure?
Yeah, the failure is when you don't learn the lesson. When you learn the lesson, the mistake becomes basically the most ROI you could actually get from your business is a mistake, right? Because you take that information and then you go and do it 100% better the next time, and your business grows and scales because of it. And that is a beautiful thing. It's almost like a gift. But when you repeat the same mistake over and over, that's an indication that you haven't learned the lesson. You're not really willing to look at the problem, which starts with you, because you're your brand, right? You bring you to the table in your business every day. So you're the one that has to really look at your behavior and look at the way you're running the business and be honest with yourself. Don't judge yourself because that's not going to get you anywhere, but be honest about where you can get better, where you could do better, and where you can learn, and then go in and do the things that you need to do to change it so you can slay.
Wow. That's awesome. Thank you for that. You mentioned a barbershop, and I'm like, wow, barbershop. And my question for you is, in the male dominant industry, how did you navigate opening a barbershop?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. My life has really been me dropped into a male dominated world. I mean, Wall Street's heavily male, barbershops, obviously the customers and the staff are male. And now even in the business world, it's more male dominant than I would like to admit, so I'm kind of always doing my thing as a fish out of water. That's like where I thrive. And I think Wall Street really prepped me for that, because as a regulator, I was kind of going up against these young, aggressive stockbrokers. And by the time I got to the shop, I was desensitized to that. I'm just like, bring it on. I know how to deal with this. This is my energy. Let's go. And it's weird. Like, my business partner is male. We used to be married. We're divorced now, and we're still business partners in that business, in the barbershop business. But when he's not around and I'm there, and someone comes up to the register and I'm there, they don't think I'm the owner, which is kind of like a hidden superpower, right? Like, they'll ask me questions about, and I'm like, yeah, I own the place. And they're like, oh, like, they're always so surprised. And it's pretty hilarious to watch. But the thing about it is business. It doesn't matter if it's a barbershop. It doesn't matter if it's a restaurant. It doesn't matter if it's a boutique. business is business. If you apply business strategies, any business can soar. So the male domination of it is really something that as a human being, I had to overcome internally, because externally, business is business.
Right. You said business is business. I want you to grab your shovel and I just want you to dig at that a little bit. What do you mean by that?
So in my consulting business, I coach many entrepreneurs across many industries, and we all have the same problems. Regardless of what industry you're in, you need to apply certain things in order to grow and scale. And the zone of genius for me is helping people rise up to the level of CEO, where they are no longer in the business. They're working on the business, the greater vision for the business to push forward and scale. And everyone has the same problems, regardless of the industry they're in, right? They need to hire, they need to attract clients, they need to get their message out there and advertise and brand themselves. These are things that transcend industry. Of course, there are industries that need like a little specific nuanced touch, but business strategies are applicable no matter what.
That's awesome. Let's do this. Let's talk about pivot and slay. What inspired you to begin this journey and why?
Well, as everybody knows, the pandemic hit in 2020
Mm.
and my barbershops were shut down. And that was a real kick in the gut for me, because up until that point, my focus was scaling that business. And I hadn't really thought much about making a diverse portfolio for myself.
Uh,
So all my eggs were in the proverbial basket of the barbershop, right? And I got real shook by that, as most people would. And at first I thought, let me just throw myself into community, right? So my business partner and I, we got masks before many people had them in March, and we started donating them around the community. And I started to talk to a lot of community members that were business owners, because where I live in Long Island, it's a lot of mom and pop stuff, salons, barbershops, restaurants, boutiques, you name it, right? It's just tons and tons of small business. And I started to realize I was really passionate helping these people. I was helping them get loans because I had this legal background that no one else had. And I was confused reading all this stuff. So I helped them get loans for free. Like, this is all free stuff. I was just really excited. I'm like, I'll help you. Let me help you get loans. Let me help you figure out how to navigate this. When you reopen, let's figure out how we can get you back on the map. How do you stay in front of your customers? And I started to talk about this on my Instagram, and it lit people up the same way it lit me up. And I was like, man, I should do this for a living, because I love this. Like, this is just amazing.
um,
So I decided to open Pivot and Slay, because I heard myself, someone invited me on a podcast or radio show, and I heard myself keep saying pivot, 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 pivot. And I realized, oh, I love Friends. And they have this, that show had this scene where they're moving a couch and they say pivot. And ever since then, I've said it. So I came up with the concept of Pivot and Slay. And I decided that while I was opening up that business and building it out, I was going to write a book about all the times that I pivoted too. And so I wrote my book, and it became a bestseller. And at the same time, I launched my business, and here we are. And I found my passion is helping other people build out small businesses, because I love small business.
the Jessica that opened that barbershop and the Jessica that opened Pivot and Slay. What did the Jessica that opened Pivot and Slay, what did she know that the barbershop Jessica didn't know?
Everything,
Mhm.
everything. I mean, now having opened a second business, because I have multiple barber shops, but I consider that the same business, right? Because now I'm just replicating the process. But to go into something totally different, I mean, man, I don't think until I did that, I don't think I realized how much knowledge I had been collecting over the last 20 years, because my time on Wall Street helped me understand the way big companies run. My time at Mad Men helped me understand the way small companies run. And now when I launched my business, I was like ready. I knew all the risk I had to take. I knew what to throw money into. I knew that I could make it work. I had a renewed confidence. Whereas with Mad Men, I wasn't really sure what the heck was going to happen. I wasn't ready for half the stuff that came my way. And I had no idea if I could make it work. With Pivot and Slay, I knew.
Mm.
I'm like, I'm coming for you, world. Here I am. I'm going to make this work. Just watch me. And in 12, like in less than 12 months, I was like light years ahead of where I was with Mad Men in 12 months. It's the way that I talk to myself. My internal dialogue has changed. And, for anyone struggling out there, I think you have to realize the voice that you hear the most is your own.
Mm.
It's running in your head all day long. You are talking to yourself and you get what you focus on. So if you're focusing on all of the negative traits that you think you have, instead of all the wonderful things that you have, you're just going to keep perpetuating that negativity and those negative attributes instead of getting into the zone where you're in your element.
Right.
And so my internal dialogue in opening Pivot and Slay was much more encouraging and supportive.
Mm.
And that's why I wasn't afraid to fail, because what was the worst that can happen is I fail. If I turn around, I'm not embarrassed of failure. I'm not afraid to say I messed it up. Right. So that was empowering. And that's a totally different mindset than what I had when I opened my first business. I think what I've learned lately is, in my coaching business and consulting business, that there's problems that every business owner is going through and can relate to.
Yeah.
And so what I've started to do is speak on stages about these issues so that I can help a broader type of person, right? Like more people across the country, because not everyone can afford coaching and consulting, right? But people can afford to go to these mastermind programs and hear other people speak. So I've started to string together these issues that a lot of business owners have in common and just go out and speak on stage about them so that I can help more people feel inspired and confident to go start the business that they've been dreaming of. Because now is a beautiful time to go do something different, right? So many people's lives have changed in many different ways.
Absolutely.
And the landscape of business has changed. And I think it's a beautiful time if you feel confident enough to go take a chance. And so that's what I've learned. Like most people, they want this freedom. They have ideas. They have amazing, unique attributes to bring to the world. They just don't know how. And so all they need sometimes is a little nudge. The thing that drives me the most is because I'm a single parent and I have two little girls. And what happened when I left my corporate job was that I got to actually live my life. And I don't think that many people feel that is the true possibility for them. And it lights me up to help other people find that for themselves, because without that beauty of life outside of work, you are a one-note wonder, right? The things that light us up are outside of the four walls of our business. They're family, they're adventure, travel, learning, having exciting memories. And those are the things I want people to experience, because guess what? When you're happy and you then go to your business, the business lights up too, because it's part of who you are and you bring that energy to the business. Then you bring that energy home to your spouse, to your children. You bring that energy to your friends, and there's like this ripple effect, and your life starts to really transform in the most amazing way. And a lot of business owners, they're just in the thick of it, their heads down, and they're doing the work, and they're hustling and they're hustling. And they went from being, in a corporate job to a job that owns them in their own business. They've just exchanged one job for the other. And I want them to see like, there's a possibility out there of you having this freedom, and it's amazing. You physically embody what's happening in your mind, right? Like if you're feeling strong, most people who are feeling strong and confident, they're at the gym, they're hitting the weights, they're trying to get in the best shape because their mind's in a good shape, so their body follows. And for me, that happened with yoga. I found my peace and my strength in pushing myself in yoga class. And like testing my limits physically helped me go out and test my limits outside of that physical world. So that's a very important element of my life too.
And I'm not an expert in yoga, but I do know that yoga takes balance and things like that. And I just thought about the balance in yoga. Do that helps with, the balance in your business, fun, family, friends, finance? I mean, do that helps in that area as well?
For sure. I mean, for me, and I know a lot of people feel this way, they have that racing mind, right? It's always thinking, always going. And yoga for me is a wind down, right? It's helping me focus on just one thing, which is how the heck am I going to do that pose? And because I have to sit there and really concentrate, my mind is relaxed and all that chatter kind of goes away. And that helps. Like afterwards, you kind of feel a little more at peace, a little more focused because you don't have all that like ping pong going on in your brain.
In business and in consulting, what are some common mistakes you see most startups make?
Well, startups initially, the biggest mistake I see them make is taking money out of the business too soon because everybody's very eager, obviously, to pay their bills and all that stuff. But the number one reason that startups fail in the first couple of years is because they're underfunded and they don't have the capital they need to grow. And I think it's important that whenever you go to startup, you have that seed money to live off of while you let the business kind of run and fund itself.
Yeah.
Later in the stage of a startup, I think the biggest mistake is not scaling soon enough. And again, it's because of the funding. They're finally at a stage where they're like, oh, maybe I can take some money, not realizing that hiring someone at that stage would be a higher ROI, return on investment, in the long term, because you can actually get bigger and make more money if you have more staff. So I think those are the two most common mistakes and trip ups that new entrepreneurs make. You really have to focus on not just the immediate future, next month or next week, right? You need to have the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan for the company to grow and scale. How are you going to do that if you're doing all the $5, tasks?
Yeah.
There's tasks that you can go out and make 10 grand for the company, or there's tasks that you have to do, but they're low level. And if you focus on those, you'll get sidetracked from the larger thing. So the first order of business when you're scaling is to get an admin to do all of that stuff, delegate that little stuff because it's taking up energy and you only have so much to give. Once you get that stuff off your plate, you can actually focus your time and energy on the bigger, larger tasks that push the vision of the company forward and make the money for the company.
Yes, Jessica, that is a knowledge bomb. Thank you for sharing that because that is definitely so important because we feel as entrepreneurs that we have to do everything, that we have to continue to do everything. And it's just kind of like you said, it's just taking time away from what we're doing. And then now the entrepreneur is, I mean, not only stressed out physically, but I mean, body just drained because you're spending all this time into the business and you're losing focus of your life.
Most people that come to me are in this exact scenario because they've grown a business and it's busy and it's making a ton of money and they are just, getting battered by all of the leads and by all of the time, and their wives or their spouses are not happy and they don't see their kids. And the answer is delegate. That is the answer. I hear this all the time. Oh, but my business is different. Nope. No, it's not. It's not different. Any business can do this. Oh, but no one can do it like me. Nope. You are not that special. Hate to break it to you. You can delegate anything. There's nothing that you do that cannot be delegated. You can find the right person to take over. You can, but you have to let go of those stories. You have to let go. You have to be able to properly delegate. And that takes training. That's what I work on with my people, how to delegate it correctly, how to find the right people. A lot of times people just throw out an ad. Oh, I threw out this ad and I got all these terrible, terrible candidates. Well, your ad sucks. How about that? You got to work to attract the right people. And then when you find the right person, you got to work to properly delegate to them so they can do it your way. And then your life changes. That's when the magic happens, right? That's when you leave your 9 to 5, or that's when you start staying home more with your kids and you pick them up from school and you put your nanny on part-time and you go on vacation with your wife and your business is still running.
Yes.
Because it doesn't need you because you're replaceable. You are replaceable. I know you don't want to hear it. You don't want to hear it because it's your baby. but it's true. And why don't you want to hear it, guys? That's what I'd like to ask you. Why don't you want to hear it? Don't you want to be on the beach in Aruba while your business makes you money? Yes, you do. Come on, tell the truth.
Yes.
I can make it happen.
Yes.
I've done it for myself multiple times.
Wow. Thank you, Jessica. That's another knowledge bomb for the Lead to Greatness community. That's so awesome. I want to ask you this question. Why do you think these limiting beliefs, where do they come from?
I mean, I don't want to get too woo-woo on you here, but they come from our childhood and the cycle of our life. I believe that too. Like, life keeps presenting you the same challenges until you learn the lesson.
Yes.
Right? It's like, it'll come in different forms. It's not going to be the same exact scenario, but it's going to bring you the same kinds of people till you learn the lesson. It's going to bring you the same scenarios till you learn the lesson. And the lesson comes from breaking out of those limiting beliefs. And I don't know why we have them. We each have them for different reasons, right? Maybe someone said something to you when you were younger and it stuck with you, or you failed one time and you don't forgive yourself for that, or you saw your parent fail, whatever it is, or you grew up poor, or, so many things it could be. But the trick is to identify what that limiting belief is, and then really go back to the evidence of your life and see the times where that wasn't true. It wasn't true. That limiting belief is what you told yourself, but it wasn't actually the truth. So let's go back and just change that. Let's pivot our mindset, because you can break the cycle. You can, but the first thing we have to do is be aware of what the cycle is and why, because that hits deep. That's deep stuff, right? Like, this is stuff it feels like you're getting punched in the gut when it happens, and you don't know why it feels so deep. Well, it's because of something that happened 1 billion years ago to you, right? Like, it happened when you were young, and you probably don't even know the exact catalyst, but it's very ingrained. It's going to keep popping up. Have you ever gotten out of a relationship and you're like, man, that sucked, right? But then the next relationship that sucks, you're like, wow, that was similar in this way and that way. Well, because you're going to learn the lesson. Life's going to keep throwing it at you till you learn.
Knowledge bomb. Wow, that is life keep throwing it at you until you learn. That's why oftentimes in business, the same cycles of failure happen over and over again. In relationships, the same cycle happen over and over again. The same debt to income, financial tragedies in your life happens over and over again. I love it because life keep throwing it at you because you haven't learned. That is so amazing, Jessica.
And to your point, finance is a mindset, right? I mean, there's some crazy entrepreneurs out there. They're going to live off nothing and they're going to throw the money at the company. Like, I remember during the pandemic, people close to me thought I was crazy. My businesses were shut down. I didn't have my rent forgiven. So I had to keep paying rent on both shops from my own savings account. When we reopened, I had to pay my staff from my savings account, but yet here I was throwing the last of my savings towards a new business. People thought I was crazy, but that's a mindset. I saw that I could make more money in the long term if I did this. Instead of hoarding that squirrel nut for a rainy day, threw it out there, I could make it work. I could make it work for me. But not everybody has that mindset. And that's all it is, guys. It's just your mindset.
Jessica, another knowledge bomb. Wow, this is amazing. This is amazing. And I know you are helping the Lead to Greatness community on today. I really thank you for this. What are some practical leadership growth tips and tools and advice that you can share with the Lead to Greatness community to help us reach our greatest potential?
Your greatest potential is already inside of you guys. You have it in there. Everything you need is in there. You just have to move your stuff around and find it. It's there. It's there. It's inside of you. It's behind all the crap you've been telling yourself. It's behind all the trash, right? Move the trash out of the way and let your inner light shine. Bring that energy to the table and start to focus on the positive, and positive will flow. And that's the greatest thing you can do, whether you're in a 9 to 5, whether you're in a business, whether you're gravitating up the ladder towards, leadership in your company. If you shine that light, there's nothing that's going to stop you.
Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you for that. As a new client, what can someone expect from you and your team?
I have a very empathetic coaching style, but I'm also very direct. So you can expect to hear the hard truth from me in a way that makes you feel supported in your growth. And I think that's something that my clients appreciate about me, because I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you, but I am going to be here to help you pivot in the right way so that you can continue to slay your goals. So you might hear some hard truth from me, but that's just us, getting at the junk so that we can move it out of the way and get you to succeed.
If someone wanted to connect with you and what you're doing, where should they go?
You can find me and everything I do at pivotandslay.com. My book is there, application to my coaching program, my Instagram and social media handles, which are at the Jessica Dennehy. And if you need to book me for a speaking engagement, you can do so on my website too. So you visit pivotandslay.com for everything.
On behalf of the Lead to Greatness community, I want to thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule and adding value to us all.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the time.
And don't forget to subscribe to Lead to Greatness if this is your first time. And if this podcast was helpful to you, leave a big thumbs up. And also, I want you to check out our Marriage Coach podcast, the podcast with my wife and I. If you're on iTunes, please rate this podcast and leave a review and help get the word out. Again, thank you, Lead to Greatness Nation, for joining us on today. Looking forward to seeing you again on next week. Till then, remember, if you help others reach their greatest potential, together we can change the world. Peace. We out.